Okay, welcome back. We're going to jump right into it and starting off this topic with enmeshment, right? So let me give you the definition of enmeshment. So emotional enmeshment is a relationship pattern, most often in families where personal boundaries are blurred or non-existent, causing individuals to become overly involved in each other's emotions, needs, and identities. Okay, so that is the definition of enmeshment. I will give you an example of what enmeshment looked like for me. I was 18, September 11th happened, I was at Borough of New York City, and parts of the school were destroyed. So I picked up at 18, I left home, moved to California. It was an opportunity for me to start over. It was an opportunity for me to create a little bit of distance that I had so longed for. And also, it was an opportunity for me to evolve and to grow, right? And also get to know, like I mentioned before, there were 3 times that I tried to get to know my father, and this is the 2nd time. So it was an opportunity for me to get up and move across country and get to know this man that I considered, was my father. So I moved across country and I started my life over as an 18-year-old. And I took some time off from school. I worked. I got a job working as a PR assistant for a sports radio station in California. And that entire year was a growth year for me. And I'd say 8 months in of me moving, my mom, to my surprise, picked up and moved from the East Coast all the way to California, which was, to my surprise, because I had no clue. She'd always talked about never, ever, ever moving back, but she did. She wound up moving back, and that is when I actually started to take notice that there is, and I didn't have the language for it, but that is when I started to take notice that there is a level of enmeshment here. And so I spent a year off from school, spent a year working, and a year later I decided, it's time for me to go back to school. So I enrolled into school and I moved across country, but this time to the South. And at 19 years old, I started my journey all over again in a place in the South, where I knew no one, nothing. And a year later, my mom decided that she wanted to move there as well. So that is an example of enmeshment. Some characteristics. I'm going to read that off to you. Characteristics of emotional enmeshment. Right? It's a lack of emotional boundaries. Private thoughts, fears, or adult problems are shared inappropriately. Emotional infusion. If you're upset, I must fix it. Right? Loss of self. Difficulty identifying your own needs, value, or preferences. And guilt around autonomy. Choosing yourself feels selfish. Role confusion. Child becomes emotional support, mediator, or confidant. And that term is also parentification, which is what I had become, but I didn't have the language for it. Now we do, right? So what enmeshment is not, it is not healthy closeness at all. It is not empathy, and it's not a strong family bond. I don't care what anybody says, we're a family, we gotta stick together. Yes, that is true, but it is not a healthy, strong family bond, not enmeshment. And how it commonly develops. Enmeshment often forms when a parent is overwhelmed, unsupported, or emotionally lonely. And this is the core sad issue for most single parents, right? This is another bullet point, is one parent is absent. And for me, that was my father. The family relies on the child for stability or comfort, and that fell on me. Survival takes priority over emotional development. Yeah, so it's all a coping strategy. See, these are all coping strategies. And so the difference, I do want to point this out too. So long-term effects, especially in adulthood, and there were points in my life that I did experience. I have experienced some of this. So some of the long-term effects of emotional enmeshment as an adult are the feeling responsible for other people's emotions, struggle with boundaries in relationships, confuse love with obligation, experiencing anxiety, guilt, or burnout. And that is true. Overfunction or people pleasing. Yeah, that's another thing. Having difficulty knowing what they want. That's not the case for me. But a lot of this, the long-term effects, if you don't recognize that you have a level of enmeshment within your family dynamic, right? Then a lot of the long-term effects are going to seem semi-normal to you, but it's not. These aren't strong family bonds. So hang with me, because I'm going to give you an example of healthy closeness and what that looks like, right? And how it's always evolving, and how you have to constantly put yourself in check, and recognize if those boundaries are slipping, straighten them out. So closeness, right? Closeness is the example. I'll give you an example. It's basically what my relationship is with my mom currently, right now. It took years. It took years to get there. Years. But we're here. And like I mentioned before in my previous video, the fact that she has gone through surgery, I'm having to actually reiterate some of those boundaries that I put in place. I'm having to reiterate some of that again. And it's okay. It's okay. But for some of you single daughters out there, if you have an aging parent, recognize that this might be the case for you, and it's okay to reiterate your boundaries, right? Even in the midst of, helping an aging parent with something. For my case, it's her surgery, post-surgery. So here's the definition of healthy closeness. It is an emotional connection where people are deeply bonded without losing themselves. Love without obligation, and support without control. So let's define plain language and the definition and what that is. Healthy closeness exists when you can emotionally be connected and emotionally separate yourself. Care does not require self-sacrifice. Love allows individuality, disagreement, and growth. You can be close without carrying someone else's emotional weight, which is so important. Even thinking back on, a relationship, and I'm not trying to do that, but how the two, if you don't establish with the person that you've spent the most time with, and in my case, it's my mom, if you don't establish some of these boundaries in relationships, things like caring for someone else's emotional weight will come up in a relationship. And it will drain you. You are not responsible for someone else's happiness. And I learned that I mean, I've learned that pretty early on. But has that happened, in some of my relationships throughout the years? Yeah, absolutely, it has. But again, you have to constantly keep yourself in check and reassess yourself, reassess your boundaries, reassess your thought patterns, right? And staying rooted in God's word. Like, without that, you will slip, for sure. So let's keep going. The core characteristics of healthy closeness. And I'm just reading this off, and then I'll give you my example, and how, that can affect your future. So, clear boundaries. So, core characteristics of healthy closeness: clear boundaries. Privacy, personal space, and emotional limits are respected. I can't even begin to tell you how many times, like when my mom and I had enmeshment, how I would tell her everything, my dating, this and that, everything. And what that was doing, but of course I didn't know what that was doing, was allowing her to vicariously live her life through me, right? So her identity was placed on me, and I didn't know the weight that I was carrying. So moving on. Emotional attunement. Feelings are acknowledged and not absorbed, which is something when you're in emotional enmeshment you don't have. Mutual responsibility. Each person manages their own emotions. So mother, daughter, each manages their own emotions. Permission to differ. Disagreements doesn't mean a threatened relationship, and that's the truth. Having disagreements doesn't mean that I'm not going to not talk to you for a day or 2 days or 4 hours even, right? It means talking about it and moving on from that. Support without control. Help is offered, not demanded. So this is the core. Those were the core characteristics of emotional closeness and healthy closeness. Here are 2 quick contrasts of just the differences between closeness and enmeshment. Closeness: I care about you, but I'm still going to be me. Enmeshment is: I care about you so that I disappear. I lose myself. I forget about myself, right? And even now, like, again, I keep saying it, like, in caring for her, I've had to remind myself of the boundaries that I set in place. And this is why I'm showing up for myself by doing a video every day for the people that need to see and hear, right? Because I am going through it in real time, and this is a part of my journey that I am sharing with you. So, and lastly, how does healthy closeness feel in the body? It feels calm, grounded, and regulated. Safe to speak honestly. No guilt for needing space. Connection feels energizing and not draining. And this carries over, really, it's not just in mother-daughter dynamics. What I just said, that actually carries over into relationships, marriages, friendships, your relationships with your sister or your brother, right? Your coworkers, all of that. And I'll read it again. How healthy closeness feels within the body. It feels calm, grounded, and regulated. You feel safe to speak honestly. There's no guilt for needing space. And connection feels energizing and not draining. Yeah, I think if we paid more attention to a lot of, how our nervous system feels, even just speaking honestly with people, right? There would be a lot less heartache. And not having guilt for needing space is crucial. Family or in a romantic relationship, either or. So yeah, what am I suggesting to you? What am I suggesting that if you feel like you have an unhealthy, relationship with your mom, what am I suggesting? I'm suggesting I'm suggesting that you create a path for yourself, right? To separate yourself from your mom. I'm not saying, withdraw and become this hermit, right? But start with conversation by letting her know that this is what you need for you, and this is what you will be doing, so that it's not sudden, right? So that she's not confused. And then you have a sense of guilt. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm suggesting is that you create a path by first communicating that you will be creating a path for yourself, right? Pick up hobbies for yourself. So in my I'd say early 20s, like I mentioned, I took a horticulture class, and then I volunteered at the Conservatory of Flowers. Had the best time of my life. I was a volunteer, and took a horticulture class, took an ikebana class. So I'm saying pick up hobbies for yourself. Create a path of independence for yourself aside from, the image that you've painted of yourself within your family dynamic. Yeah, you're a daughter, but you're also a woman that is becoming, or a young woman that is becoming, right? So create boundaries. Boundaries are so important. Boundaries are important for every aspect of your life, whether it be your friendships, whether it be your romantic relationships, whether it be a working relationship, whether it be, a relationship with your child, whatever the case may be. Boundaries. Clear set boundaries. Jesus had them. And let's see, as long as that also staying rooted in God's word is I would say the fundamental piece to this. Because there will be times that you will have some spiritual attacks. If you are a Christian, yeah, you will definitely have some spiritual attacks. And staying rooted in God's word is the fundamental piece to all this. And, I just want to thank you all for joining. And I have created a chart for you to read, also a self-check worksheet that I will put in the description box. It's a downloadable PDF. And I encourage you to just take the assessment. It's a few questions that I put together. It's a chart that gives you the breakdown of what enmeshment looks like, what closeness looks like, as well as a worksheet to answer a yes or no. It's a checkbox. And take it. See if you fall between one of those two, or you fall within one of those two categories. And if it's enmeshment, I encourage you to start healing from that, grow from that. There are several books that are out about enmeshment. There are lots of podcasts that are out about enmeshment that you can follow up on. I'll put one in the description, but just it's time. It's time. So thanks for joining, and stay tuned for the next video. All right, bye for now.